Here, quickly! There's a man out there.
What?
Look, he's crawling on...
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite Of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Yum.
Delicious.
Nibbles of pop culture.
Nibbles of creepiness here at the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, Twilight Zone. I mean, we've covered quite a few episodes already, like four. But we hope that you're loving this journey with us into the Twilight Zone.
There'll be 2 more. Now it'll be 6. Whoa.
Before we get into this episode, make sure you're following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at A Bite of Pod. We also have a Facebook group where you can just post about pop culture-y things or whatever, polls and stuff like that, and pictures of pets, all that great stuff.
Whatever way you like to enjoy the internet, we have an outlet for you.
Yeah, Discord, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there. We also have merch and a Patreon. Yeah, so if you like the show and want to support us in any way, those are the 2 ways that you can help us get out of the Twilight Zone. So
we do.
Yeah. Without further ado,
Noah, hit us up with that theme and phobia for this week's episode.
Yeah. So, okay. This episode is Frightful Flights. And how could we not cover an episode of The Twilight Zone and theme it with aeroplanes? Because there's quite a few in The Twilight Zone. Because flying is scary, one.
Yeah.
And adding terrible, twisty, sci-fi / supernatural things to it is not even... It's not good. It's a lot less fun.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm flying and there's even a bit of turbulence, I'm like, no, I don't want to know what happens when there's some sort of interstellar something or other going on.
Oh no. And after watching these episodes and doing some research on like phobias and just kind of going down a rabbit hole of like strange occurrences on airplanes, do you know how much the pilots do not tell the passengers of things going on?
I kind of appreciate that, to be honest.
No, not me.
I mean, my biggest thing was like recently we were on a flight. Well, not recently. Well, months ago, maybe 6 months ago, we were on a flight. And the people in front of me were asking for flavored seltzer. And they were like, oh, we have the AHA seltzer. And here, it's really good. And then they gave it to him. And I was like, hi, can I have some flavored seltzer? And they gave me plain seltzer.
Oh.
Why didn't I get the fun flavored one?
That was the line from how much the pilots don't tell us what's going on to just
but what I'm
immediately
saying
upset
is
about
that
seltzer.
That's the level I can handle on an airplane. I don't want to know anything that the pilots aren't telling us.
I was like, wait, what?
I have a very low threshold for what I can handle on a plane, and it was that.
Yeah. And so obviously this phobia for this episode is going to be the fear of flying, aerophobia / aviophobia.
I like that though. Let's just keep it simple on the name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we get it. Aerophobia. Perfect.
Yeah. So again, I got my wonderful phobia research from verywellmind.com. Aerophobia is a type of specific phobia that involves a fear of flying or air travel. While they say that air travel is actually safer than other traveling means, it's just a lot scarier.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think everybody has some type of anxiety with flying, be that how long the lines are, how long you have to wait, how there's not really any snacks, or you have to pay for the snacks.
An arm and a leg.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in this. Research suggests that between 2.5% and 40% of people experience flying-related anxiety each year. So it's between 2.5% and 40%. So again, most people have
almost half.
Yeah. Estimates on the low end likely represent instances where the condition is diagnosed by a mental health professional, while those on the higher end are just more self-related symptoms that you're just freaking out yourself. But also it's interesting because it's like, are those ones that are diagnosed by a health profession like they like were like sent to them because they're like, you cannot fly because you're ridiculous? You know what I mean? And then like the 40% is just like, I just hate flying.
Probably.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the thing is that with flying, there's so much that's out of our control. You know, when you're behind the wheel of a car, you're on the ground, you're kind of controlling things. Like, we just have to hope that science always works the way it's supposed to. Like, we're going fast enough that we remain in the air.
Yeah. It's interesting because this phobia is almost like the apocalyptic phobia that I talked about in the first episode, where it's not a real phobia because there's so many, like, it's an umbrella, and it's like, you know, people might have a fear of a plague, people have a fear of zombies, people have a fear of nuclear weapons, whatever. So they can't really categorize it as a whole. This one, it's more, this is the phobia, but it could be caused by other phobias while doing this phobia. And those are claustrophobia, fear of heights, acrophobia, social or germ phobia. So these all mixed together to kind of create this super phobia of being in a metal tube with a bunch of people. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think it's kind of, there's a lot going on for people that have aerophobia.
You know, I always think about The Amazing Race, and like, they have to take so many planes.
By the fourth leg, you're probably just like, this is fine.
I just feel like I feel like naturally when you fly, like the whole thing, I get a little nervous. I don't know if you get a little nervous, but it's like a little nerve-wracking.
I'm not nervous until we land.
What?
Landing freaks me out. I don't know why. Taking off, being in the plane, I am cool as a cucumber. But that landing, I just, you know, I've seen too many videos where I see planes land, and they just wobble so much. And I'm like, these tiny itty bitty wheels with these giant wings, you turn a wrong way, there's a gust of wind, you're dead.
And there's always that moment when you land where like, I don't know if there's any such thing as a smooth landing, like going from like tens of thousands of miles an hour to like stopping, where everybody just like whoop jerks forward and almost hits their head.
Definitely times where it's a little jerkier than should be. There was one where I was on where it just seemed like he kind of turned while landing too.
Goodbye.
So not only was everybody just like, but they like kind of smacked their head on the side. And we were like, what the fuck was that? He came on the intercom. He's like, sorry for not smooth landing. I'm like, yeah.
Sorry, there was another plane in front of me. How to swerve out of the way.
Oh God. There's geese just flying by.
Hello.
There should be like a deduction system for your ticket if like the flight was just awful. Like if the
get a little bit of
like,
a yeah.
Right. We're so sorry for the inconvenience. Here's like $5 back.
Give me a little voucher to a little place in the airport where I can get a snack.
Let me go to the first class for a little bit. Come on.
The lounge. The lounge.
So that's my phobia. It's pretty straightforward. I don't really have anything else to say about it, but
I do really like, though, that point that you made that there are other phobias built into this one phobia.
Yeah.
It's like flying is such a bizarre thing. We just are these hundreds of people in this metal tube, and it's like there's so much happening.
Yeah.
You have to really, I think that's why watching something or taking something, I totally am like, go for it, because you need to disconnect from this moment of madness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some people just knock themselves out. They're like, I don't want to be awake if we crash or whatever.
I just don't even want to be awake for this entire thing because all my anxieties will just explode while we're flying.
Yeah, exactly.
Explode probably isn't a great word to use while talking about flying. Yikes.
That's never something you want to hear. No.
All right. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. You've been alerted for spoilers.
Yeah. If you have not seen these episodes again that came out in the 60s, we will also be talking about some of the episodes that happened in the 2019 Twilight Zone. So if you're making your way through that, warning, you will be spoiled from all of Twilight Zone.
Here you go. So let us officially take a bite of the Twilight Zone, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, and the Odyssey of Flight 33.
Trace and trace.
Mm-hmm. So I am doing another William Shatner episode.
Back to back.
Back to back Shat.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
I said it because I thought it was going to be clever, and then it just sounded like poop.
It's one of those jokes where it is what it is.
That's the real nightmare at 20,000.
Just flush it down the toilet.
Oh, man, we're batting 1,000. 20,000, in fact.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, okay.
Keep going.
So this was in season 5, the last season of the Twilight Zone episode. Why do we keep doing that?
I don't know.
What's happening?
Because we want to talk like this.
I guess so. Oh, man, that's bizarre. Twilight Zone. Premiered on October 11th, 1963.
Smooth.
And it was written by Richard Matheson. And this was actually based on a short story that Matheson had written.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows it in and out.
Who was it directed by? Richard Donner.
Yes, Richard Donner. Was that bad?
No, that's great.
Oh.
Do you know who Richard Donner is?
No.
So they've done so many of the world's favoriteest movies. This is one of his earliest projects.
Yes.
Goonies. Lethal Weapon. The Superman Christopher Reeves movies. I mean, those are just to name a few.
What's so funny is that in doing the research for this, I think they had interviewed Matheson, and he was like livid. Not livid, but he was not happy with the direction that Donner went for this episode.
He was young.
Especially, well, that's exactly it. He said this was like one of his first jobs ever. He was like the original guy that they were looking to direct this. The way that they were going to dress the gremlin was like in this black suit with diamond dust on him, and it was almost like you could barely see him.
Well, that's fun.
On the wing of the plane, which sounds really interesting. And then,
Spoiler, go ahead.
And then so Donner said, you know what though? Ape suit. Let's do that.
I will say it is frightening.
Yes.
But also really ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous, but yet I this is like one throughout my life that I know what's going to happen, but has scared me every single time.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, it makes me nervous. It freaks me out, and it makes me hysterically laugh.
I just feel like it has one of the most successful jump scares in Twilight Zone.
Well, also, I mean, to Matheson's uncredit, I mean, it's great. The episode is great. It's one of the most famous ones, not only because of William Shatner, but because of the episode. So he helped make it great. So just like calm down.
That's one of the things, though, and of course, watching it a couple of times and taking notes. This episode, there's one set.
Yeah,
and it's the same situation 3 times, but it works. They manage to. William Shatner manages to hike the tension up every time.
Oh yeah,
which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, he plays a great, and I think I had posted this on my personal Twitter from the last episode that he plays a fantastic, like nervous, paranoid character. William Shatner.
Yes,
he's great at doing that.
Yeah.
He's great at like him feeling that anxiety or that paranoia and making you feel that too. It's just so good.
And especially in a 1960s sci-fi half-hour drama, to be able to deliver that is a pretty great talent.
Yeah.
So let's start off, as we do with our episodes, by going through our monologue by Mr. Serling.
Oh, yay.
Portrait of a Frightened Man. Mr. Robert Wilson, 37, husband, father, and salesman on sick leave. Mr. Wilson has just been discharged from a sanitarium where he spent the last 6 months recovering from a nervous breakdown, the onset of which took place on an evening not dissimilar to this one, on an airliner very much like the one in which Mr. Wilson is about to be flown home. The difference between that, on that evening half a year ago, Mr. Wilson's flight was terminated by the onslaught of his mental breakdown.
Whoa, big word.
Tonight, he's traveling all the way to his appointed destination, which, contrary to Mr. Wilson's plan, happens to be in the darkest corner of the Twilight Zone. Whoa.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that opening narration.
So much information.
But my biggest question is, what does he sell?
Salesman. That's it.
No, he can't sell salesman, can he?
He's a salesman.
He sells salesmen.
So he was already in the Twilight Zone selling salesmen, and then he went even further into the Twilight Zone, Gremlin on the
I
wing.
want an episode of him in the sanitarium. What led him to be that way?
Yes. So this is my question, which they don't give you any background on.
It's the Twilight Zone. They never do.
But it's so heavy. He had a mental breakdown on a plane.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Selling salesmen took too much out of him. He couldn't do it anymore.
That would. I also do want to preface this with, I got confused with his character from our last one, and in all of my
Don?
notes, his name is Don. In this one, his name is Bob or Robert. So if I say Don, I'm talking about William Shatner.
Good old Donbert.
Yeah.
Got him.
Whatever.
The episode opens up with Bob and his wife, Julia, getting on the plane. And you know it's going to be hellacious flight because there aren't assigned seats.
No,
Okay.
and also there's nobody else. It's just Bob and his wife for a while. The camera doesn't even look at anybody else.
Special treatment. He just got back from the sanitarium. Yay.
But isn't it interesting that, I mean, the cameras just focus on them the entire time. You don't really even see other passengers. You know they're there.
Yeah.
But you know, usually when it's like kind of like going to be taking place in one area, it's like, here's the older woman that's probably going to die. Here's the creepy guy that you need to keep your eye on. This one, it's just these two.
Well, they're our principal players.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that matter besides
Also 30 minutes.
Mr. Gremlin.
Yeah.
on the wang of the plane. Mm-hmm. So they find their seat. He sits next to the window, and Julia is a little bit concerned about this. She's like, are you sure you want to go next to the window? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. I'm over my breakdown. I'm going home. I'm going to heal.
Not even just any window seat, though.
The emergency.
Exit, or the auxiliary exit, I think they called it then.
Yeah. And even to take it further, not only is he sitting there on this plane where you get to choose your own seats, he starts to pull out a little stogie he wants to smoke in the middle of the plane. There's so much happening here. So, again, we find out that he had a breakdown. He's been cured. And he says it was over tension and over anxiety due to underconfidence. And then he turns on the light. And then we have our opening monologue. So that's really just the setup of them getting on the plane. When we come back from the monologue, the flight attendant tells them to fasten their seatbelts, and his wife slips a sleeping pill. She's one of those people. She said, I'm out. Sorry you had a breakdown. I'm sorry planes have been really bad for you in the past, but Mama needs to sleep.
She also, so speaking of Mama, she tells him at one point, like when she's going to take the pill and stuff, she was like, don't worry, Mama's taking you home. I don't like that.
If you've been for Mama.
That's like if I turn to you and be like, don't worry, Daddy's taking you home. It's weird.
Ew.
It's weird.
Ew. Zaddy's home.
Like, also, no. So if he was discharged from a sanitarium not that long ago, and the doctor's pretty much like ordering him to like face his fears and fly all the way to his destination, you're not giving him any medication, nothing to calm him, just a little bit. Also, no supervision from the doctor.
I feel like for him, it's a lot about proving to himself that he's okay.
It's just not a recipe for something to be successful.
And she's there to support him.
She does a great job.
By taking a sleeping pill and going to sleep.
What I'm saying, she's like, oh, I'm going to help you through this flight. Mama's taking you home, but also Mama's going to go to sleep, so have fun.
Mama going to get you home real safe, but first Mama needs a nap. Okay, baby? I love you, baby.
Ugh. God.
So as he's getting settled, it's raining furiously outside. He takes a look out the window, and who is there from a distance, walking until we can see him, but our good friend, Mr. Gremlin.
When I first saw this, I thought it was so dumb. I was just like, okay, that's to your, like, what now that I know, like, what Matheson said about what I was like, oh, this looks, ugh. The older I've gotten, the more I appreciate it and think it's just great.
Yes.
It just, you get no information on this thing at all. And it's terrifying.
I think one of the biggest questions that we all need to ask is, sans wings, gremlins can fly?
He's able, this gremlin is able to just casually strut down the wing.
Yes.
Granted, I think airplanes go faster now. Don't quote me on this, like 600 miles an hour or whatever. Back then, it was probably like 400 or whatever. Still, that's very fast. How?
Yes.
Magnetic feet
and
something.
And he's just like, hey, everybody, it's me, Gremlin.
Yeah.
I'm here on the wing. Hey, who are you? What's this over here? I'm going to pull this up. So seeing Mr. Gremlin just appear out of nowhere, he obviously panics. He tries to get the flight attendant's attention by pressing the call button.
I love that he looks around like, is anybody else seeing this?
Hello?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do have that vantage point, right? If you're on the wing, you're just staring, you know, right at the wing and seeing it. So I don't know. Everybody else took sleeping pills. Everybody else is tired.
Immediately within 5 minutes.
No, they got up in the air and they were like, good night. Yeah. Well, anyway, I was going to say, we see later on that they have sleeping pills to give out to people too.
Yeah.
I mean, different time, the 60s.
So weird.
Different time. Of course, everybody wakes up. The flight attendant comes over. Mr. Gremlin just kind of levitates off the wing and he's gone.
Guys, if you haven't seen this episode or if you have seen it, rewatch it. Him just literally just kind of jumping and spreading his arms out and just going, whee!
Yes. I think it's later on when he lands back on the wing. Yeah, he's literally just standing and he just like floats back onto the wing. It's so good. He's just What
no
up?
wings. What the most unrealistic thing is this Sasquatch-like creature being able to fly.
We're fine with the Sasquatch-like creature, but the fact that it could fly,
It's
we're
too
saying
much.
no.
It's way too much. And the fact that this creature has the I guess brain capacity to also be like, I'm gonna fuck with this dude that's staring at me this whole time. Like, what is this?
Gremlins, I feel like maybe we should have done some research on gremlins. Maybe gremlins have they like to taunt. They like to play with you.
I guess so. I could see
Toy
trolls
around.
more doing that, but
Noah said, that's more of a troll thing, but that's fine.
Don't buy it.
So, of course, there's nothing there. He closes the curtain. His wife offers him a sleeping pill. He's like, no. They get him a glass of water, which actually isn't a glass of water. It is the tiniest little paper cone of water that has ever existed.
It's so like snow cones, how it's like paper, like the cone.
Yeah.
It's worse than that because it looks like you took a piece of paper,
origami,
right, and kind of folded it in cone form and then just stapled the sides. I'm like, how? I guess it's like easier to clean up, but
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I feel like...
how do you drink it? It's like on a plane.
Well, that's the thing. I also feel like
you
have to drink it right away because that definitely is going to leak.
It's only for like a swig and then you're done.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. For just one sleeping pill and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
So he tries to calm himself, but there's just something nagging at him, and he just is looking at the curtain, and he just can't stop himself from bringing his hand up and pulling the curtain back, and it's the scariest scene in all of television.
At least in the 60s.
Yes. This, when I was a little kid, this part, I would, no joke, scream at the top of my lungs because our gremlin has his face pressed against the window and is like going back and forth staring at him. Ooh.
This fucking guy, I want to know how long this gremlin's face was on the window waiting for him to hopefully pull the curtain.
Yes. Hello. Tick, 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 tick. Hello, friend.
God.
So, of
It's
course,
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. He panics again, as we all do. Everybody comes rushing over, and this time the gremlin floats above the window.
He like scurries above, and it's like, what?
Goodbye. Yeah. So then he comes back down, and this time is when he starts playing with the propeller. He finds the little panel to start ripping it up. So our boy Bob is truly freaking out.
Yeah, it's only when he's the only one looking at it, of course.
Yeah.
So the whole time you're watching, there's like, is this real? Is he just freaking out? I don't know.
But his wife thinks he's just freaking out. They go back and forth. He actually names it a gremlin.
Yeah, which is the weirdest thing. Out of nowhere, he's just like, I heard stories about gremlins.
Yeah, he says, remember the stories?
Everybody's
what stories?
like, no.
What stories?
His coconut head of a wife is like, no.
Coconut head.
She does have, like, her hair's bad.
Ooh.
Her hair's real bad.
She said, I'm going to pick my husband up. Get me to full-on coconut.
Yeah, she's like, have you seen coconut? Make my head that shape. Also, same color.
I'm feeling tropical. I'd love to have a little coconut cut.
I'm going home.
And he turns to her and he goes, do I look insane? Which I feel is like the number one thing to not ask a person.
The more he tries to say he's not insane, the more not fully with it he seems.
Yeah.
He's just getting worse and worse. He's literally digging himself into a hole.
And then from that hole, he then asks her to go get the pilot. So she walks to the door and knocks on the door to the cockpit. And the flight attendant's like, hello. No.
You're not allowed in there.
We don't do that. We don't do that. So the gremlin comes back. He's really going on this panel. He starts yelling again. The flight engineer comes out, and the engineer's like, "Oh yeah, no, we know. Just don't alert the other passengers." And Bob realizes that he's just patronizing him and trying to get him to shut up.
Which makes sense. And I do have to say it's not. I can't fault him because again, kind of what I said earlier, they don't like to tell passengers anything that could possibly go wrong. So it kind of makes sense. He's like, yeah, there's something on the plane. Just shh, we know about it. Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Also, worst fear, the engine's getting messed up. Oh my God.
This gremlin wants to rip that engine up.
Do you know that most planes can fly with one engine?
I did not know that.
Yeah, terrifying. So if it starts like smoking or catching on fire and it's like dead,
You're
fine.
We're like, I don't know.
And if both go out, still fine. You just float.
Dear Lord, that I don't want to think about.
Sorry.
After this episode, we may never take another trip again. So they get him one of those airline sleeping pills. He pretends to take it. He gets up. He notices that another sleeping passenger has a gun.
Air Marshal, maybe?
I guess.
That's literally the only person that could possibly have a gun on a plane.
I don't know.
Hopefully. I don't know about the 60s, but...
Well, again, speaking of the 60s, he quote-unquote drops his cigarettes and just easily unclips the gun and takes it.
This dude has been freaking out on the plane for probably the past hour, and nobody notices this obviously manicked man walking to go get a gun.
Well, as we've pointed out, everybody else on the flight is sleeping. And the flight attendant is just over it. She doesn't want to deal with it.
She's like, if he's not yelling, it's fine.
Okay, he took his sleeping pills. He's gonna go sleep.
I'm not like a scientist or an airplane scientist.
Tell me
whatever
more.
They're called. But when he went for the gun, I'm like, I don't think shooting a gun in a pressurized metal tube going through the sky is a great idea.
Well, also, like, okay, so the next thing is that he tells his wife to get him a glass of water. He opens the emergency exit. He flies out the window. Granted, he has a seatbelt on.
Half of his body is out the window.
But everybody else on the plane, perfectly fine.
I love that he told his wife to get up and unsecure herself while he's going to just open the window to the plane to shoot this thing.
Good luck, Julia.
He's like, hopefully she fucking dies.
Love you, coconut head.
Yeah.
See ya never. So he takes all 6 rounds out on the gremlin. He gets it in the chest a couple of times. The gremlin flies off. But everybody's in a panic. Obviously, they have to make an emergency landing. There he is in some sort of, not really a straitjacket, but he's strapped in to a gurney.
Tucked in real nice in a hospital blanket with straps across his chest.
Exactly. And so people think that he tried to commit suicide, but he knows that he really saved them all. When they pan back to the wing of the plane, sure enough, the panel has been ripped up, the one the gremlin was working on the entire time.
Also, guys, give him more credit. If he's trying to commit suicide, I think he would unbuckle his seatbelt.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Good call.
And not just shoot out.
Also, he has
nothing.
a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. We'll get into it.
People are dumb on this plane.
Yeah. So dumb. But as we all know, in the Twilight Zone, everybody's questioning what's real and what's not. I believe him. There was a gremlin on the wing of that plane.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there's only a handful whatever. There's a few episodes of the Twilight Zone where the thing that's happening is ambiguous.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like the twist, whatever happens, like that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, there was actually 2 aliens here the whole time.
Right.
There was a gremlin on the plane.
Yeah.
Nobody else saw it.
Yeah.
So.
And I like that for Bob. I feel like he needs that victory after what's been going on.
Yeah. Whenever he's going into the actual ambulance, she says, everything's going to be all right. It's all right now. And he's like, I know. I'm the only one that actually does know it's all right.
Right.
Meaning he knows that he saved the plane. And everybody else will eventually find out that he was telling the truth.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
I wonder if the plane ever went down. Like maybe the gremlin just came back.
No,
once
he
left.
killed the gremlin. He saved them.
Yeah, we don't know.
Oh.
He like floated off.
Goodbye.
What kills a
That's
flying
true.
Sasquatch that likes to terrorize planes?
Turns out, engines of planes, oddly enough. That's why he's trying to get them to stop.
Yeah. I love this episode, though.
Yeah.
I know we goof around about it, but one, it's the 60s, but it's great. William Shatner is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
In every single episode that he's in.
And this storyline was remade twice by the Twilight Zone franchise. So it was once with John Lithgow in the Twilight Zone movie in 1983. And then, of course, in the new series, there was Nightmare at 30,000 Feet with Adam Scott.
Yeah, I have to mention this episode because I believe it was the second episode in the revival of this in 2019. And it's interesting because they decided to do a very well-known Twilight Zone episode very early in reviving this. But, I mean, I guess 10,000 more feet means the nightmare is 10,000 more scarier.
It's math.
Yeah.
Math.
So, Adam Scott is the titular character in this, and he plays a guy named Justin Sanderson. There's no gremlin on this one, which was very disappointing, I will say. In this new revision of this, the idea of a passenger who becomes increasingly distressed while trying to save a flight from a doom apparent to nobody but himself. He hears a podcast that's telling him everything that's happening and is like planting these things into his head. And that's what ties the two together. The original story in this one is that he's trying to save the entire flight from something nobody else knows about.
Right.
And
also,
that's the intersection.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like it's going to sound silly, but I feel like the podcast is the gremlin. It's the mythical thing that appears and changes the course of the flight.
True.
For our main character.
True. I mean, yeah, I guess the podcast was the thing that was going to destroy the plane in the first place. Yeah, I again, with these newer ones, since they're kind of easily accessible, and maybe a lot of people didn't watch it because this new one only got 2 seasons and people needed to watch it because it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I will say go watch it. And I'm not going to say anything else about this episode, but I will say I really enjoyed it. The way that they used the podcast to fuel this dude's like distress and further the plot.
Yeah.
Of it was, I think, was pretty interesting. I liked it a lot.
You know, I've said this a couple of times. I've probably said it once in each episode. But again, I feel like in the first season of the new Twilight Zone in 2019, there's a commentary on something. And it almost feels lightly like the dangers of podcasts. Like the more people listen to something, they'll believe whatever it is that they're listening to just because they love it so much.
I think, I think I don't think it was pointed at podcasts, but I think it's more of the fear of not knowing, that type of thing. Kind of like not profiling, but like kind of you just, one, you don't have all the facts, and 2, nobody else is listening to you. It is weird. I think this one is like, what is actually happening in this one? What is the message across the board with this one?
Maybe it's just sit down when you're on a plane.
Yeah, and
just
stop
sit down.
Stop listening to a podcast that you found on a Zune.
I wouldn't.
In the thing.
Imagine now during Corona Omicron, picking out something that wasn't yours and putting it in your face.
Yeah.
No.
This one, this episode was very, how do I say this? It was very competent. It was well written. It was great. But I did feel like it was a little dissatisfying almost.
Yeah.
When you finally get to the end of it.
Well, because the whole journey of the episode is going, wait, what's happening? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And when you get to the end, it's like,
it has that doom and gloom of the Twilight Zone that you get every now and then.
Yeah.
Adam Scott does a fine job, but I want to say in the previous iterations of this story with William Shatner and John Lithgow, they could push the performances to like frantic extremes that I don't think Adam Scott was really able to get to.
Well, also, though, I feel like the material wouldn't allow him to get to the frantic extreme. In both of the prior Nightmare at whatever 1,000 feet, there's a literal gremlin on the plane, whereas Adam Scott isn't given that material.
No, but he's to play a paranoid passenger trying to save the plane that nobody else knows about. So he had the ability to kind of play into more of that paranoia and like trying to do stuff, and he has his moments, but I just felt like the thing that makes those other two so good is just that franticness of that like isolated paranoia that's happening with that one person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. Watch it.
I just really liked all of your plosive P's that you used.
Thank
you were
you.
like, person on a plane, paranoia. It was fantastic.
That's why it's hard to talk about these episodes. There's a lot of
So that's it for Nightmare at 20,000 feet.
All right, on to mine. This one is so fucking weird.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. Full disclosure, I'd never seen it before, and I understand why now, but we had a handful of ones, and I was like, I'm just going to do one I've never seen before. I was very pleasantly surprised with the ridiculousness of it, but it's always nice to watch things you've never seen before.
Yeah, no, it was like, which one should we do? Which one do you think would be fun to talk about? I said, well, this one has a dinosaur in it, and he was like, we're doing that one.
How dare you spoil it?
I'm sorry.
God.
We said spoiler alert. They're alerted for spoilers.
I know.
I'm sorry. Was that just a
It's
good
fine.
fun thing for you to reveal for your
It's like
episode?
the only thing that happens in the episode, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Odyssey of Flight 33 first premiered on February 24th. On February 24th, 1961. It was in season 2, episode 18. We have a lot of season 2 and season 1s, which are probably the better seasons of the Twilight Zone.
Well, I think like flat out, we could just say that we're probably not. I don't think we have any season 4s lined up.
I think I have one.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Well, season 4 is when they forced the Twilight Zone to go to an hour instead of the 30-minute format, and people just like were not crazy about it.
Even Rod Serling himself was like, some of the writing for this just doesn't work in that long format.
Yeah.
So I get it, but there's still some gems in there. I'm not saying
we saw one on New Year's. What was it? Jezebel?
I can't. I refuse to even talk about that one on this one. I can't stand it.
Jezebel.
But the actress that's in it plays in another fantastic one.
Yeah, that we're
one
going to cover.
I hate it. I hated it. It was so long. It was so stupid.
So long.
I wish everybody just disappeared into the Twilight Zone on that one. Go away. If you know which one I'm talking about, you know.
Jezebel.
So opening narration. You're riding on a jet airliner en route from London to New York. You're at 35,000 feet. Why is the first one 20,000 feet and this one only 35? And this one's 35. Why did that plane go? Maybe because I guess it's going cross Atlantic. I don't know.
Well, planes have to fly at different altitudes so that they don't crash into each other.
I told you I wasn't a plane scientist, so I concede. At 35,000 feet, atop an overcast and roughly 55 minutes from Idlewild Airport. Spoiler, that's JFK.
Who knew?
I'm glad it's JFK.
We were
now.
like, what are they saying?
Yeah.
Eat a Wheatie?
But what you've seen occur inside the cockpit of this plane is no reflection on the aircraft or the crew. It's a safe, well-engineered, perfectly designed machine. And the man you'll see, met are trained, cool, highly efficient men. Problem is simply that the plane is going too fast and there's nothing within the realm of knowledge or at least the logic to explain it. Unbeknownst to the passengers and crew, see, I told you, the airplane is heading into an uncharted region well off the beaten track of commercial travelers. It's moving into the Twilight Zone. What you're about to see we call the Odyssey of Flight 33, which is so weird for
They
him
never do that.
Why?
Say the title.
Oh, it's so weird.
It was weird.
Why do I keep getting the narrations that are just weird? I don't know. That was very long too.
Too fast.
Yeah.
Too furious.
So this episode takes place on Global Airlines Flight 33. They're going from London to New York. Everybody and their mother on this plane is like demanding these pilots to fly faster. They want to get to their destination. People have dates. People have to go to operas. People have meetings.
I believe the term is heavy dates.
I wish that came back. If you had a serious date, meaning like it's not just like a first date or kind of like, I'm just going to get coffee, like a heavy date. Like
heavy.
This is like, it could lead into some heavy things. I wish people did that more.
I do.
Just
tonight.
Wow.
Heavy date.
Wow. About 50 minutes from Idlewild. Is it Idlewild? I feel like I'm
Idlewild.
saying I'm saying
know.
a Pokemon. That's what I feel like I'm saying.
Gotta catch 'em all. Idlewild.
So about 50 minutes from JFK,
The airport.
Captain Farver and his crew notice that the ground speed of their Boeing 707 is rapidly increasing beyond reason. And I will say that there's about 50 men in this cockpit. How many people does it take to fly a plane?
This is, listen, look.
A lot.
You got the pilot. You got
navigator.
the co-pilot.
Uh-huh.
You got the navigator,
Radio guy.
engineer, and radio guy.
That's 5 people in one little cockpit.
And then good old Janie comes in, and she's the one that's all like, the girls got Broadway shows, and they got dates. It's everybody's sweating. It's so hot.
It does seem really hot. Apparently, they're going about 830 knots, and I have no idea what that means.
Garlic knots.
I could.
Hey!
Is it going as fast as it takes to make 830 garlic knots? Like, that's how fast they're going.
Delicious.
Which doesn't seem very fast, actually.
No.
There's a lot of strange pilot language in this episode. Like, they say, hit one Lulu of a jet stream.
That's a technical term.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh.
Lulu.
That means nothing.
Oh, yeah, one Lulu of a jet stream.
What are knots? What's gander? And what's no soap? He says no soap in this.
Okay, let's break it down.
I don't.
So knots, we already got. Garlic knots.
We don't.
Right? Lulu. I mean, you know. A Lulu.
It was before Hulu.
No soap means that it's not slippery.
It's dirty?
Dirty, not slippery.
Not sanitary.
Grimy.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another one I forgot.
Gander.
Oh, a gander. Oh, geese. Gander geese.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, I don't know.
Oh.
I'm making all this up. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
See, not scientists of planes.
No, I knew one thing about 20,000 versus 25,000 feet. That's it. That's all I got.
Well, that does make sense. I do want to say this is a fun little tidbit. Author Mark Scott Zicree of the Twilight Zone Companion interviewed Rod Serling and how this episode came to be. This is actually pretty interesting. Rod received mail from the American Airlines in which the airline company was offering to any production studio on the West Coast, specifically, a mock-up of a 707 passenger cabin to be used for filming. So they were kind of auctioning off this cabin that they had. And they used it for training. So
I see.
That's why they had it, but they were kind of done with it because they were moving past the 707s. And they're like, anybody want this? So that's how it came to be. Rod Serling became super fascinated with the idea of filming an episode in such a enclosed set. So kind of like 20,000 feet.
So maybe, is this the first plane episode, I wonder?
This is the first one where it was like an actual plane.
Cool.
Because before it was kind of just made into a set to look like a plane.
Yeah.
This one was an actual plane.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I thought that was a super interesting little tidbit. So he bought a plane to film this episode specifically, and then he developed the idea for it.
Very cool.
Pretty cool. So their true airspeed remains constant. So there's no risk of the plane actually breaking up. Because I had that in my head. I'm like, well, if they're going that fast, I don't think this plane can. So it's more like everything around them is moving fast, but the plane is safe within the jet stream. And
Lulu.
they can't contact. Yeah, it's one heck of a Lulu.
One heck of a Lulu.
Stewardess Jen is shook. No one is making it to no Broadway shows.
Sorry, Paula.
She goes to the other stewardess, and it was like, we're in trouble. Go serve those bevies.
She's like, girl, look at me. We're not getting out alive, but you give them their caffeine. Concentrate on something.
Again, they don't tell you anything on planes, and I'm going to be very vigilant next time I'm on a plane.
Oh, do you know what happened to me once? When I was going to Japan, we were on like China Airlines or something like that. They took the coffee, like the thing that catches the coffee, out of the coffee maker, and a waterfall of coffee came out of the coffee maker, went onto the floor. The flight attendant just took the thing, the carafe, and just put it back in.
I mean, smart.
And then he was just like, okay, we're taking off. Yeah. I was just like, so scary.
Yikes. At this point, the navigator looks at his panel and says they've exceeded Mach 1. The only thing I know about planes, mostly because I have quite a few of actual pilots in my family, and I've heard this before, they like to talk about the speedometers and gauges and stuff in there. Why would a subsonic plane have an indicator that goes over Mach 1? The plane is literally not able to go that fast. So it's interesting that they have indicators on this plane to be like, just in case, let's have ones that go to like Mach 8. In case your plane goes so fast.
He just had the instinct. He knew. He just knew.
One of the passengers, throughout this episode, people kind of feel an increase of speed, which I think is interesting. We get the shot of passengers, and he seems to sense an increase in speed. He's also talking to this woman. She's like a lip-smacking, gossiping woman talking about some other woman's liver. Like
liver.
Okay, this is how she talks. This woman was doing that. I'm like, what? Was that a creative choice?
Yeah.
For me to hate her?
And other than him saying, like, did you feel that? This little scene between these two passengers was
weird.
Far too long and did not need to happen.
It seemed like the only reason is to show that, because this guy was in the Marines or something for England, the United Kingdoms.
Armed Forces.
I guess he knows about planes and feeling speed, so I think it was just showing that, like, people can feel it, that notice it.
And I had seen this one before, and when they had that scene, I obviously had blocked it out of my memory.
It makes no sense.
I was like, oh, he must come to help at some point because he's getting a lot of airtime.
Doesn't.
Nope. This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
Have you ever, on a plane, had a talkative seatmate?
Luckily, I can say no.
That is my number one fear with flying. I just figured it out. I would not know what to do with myself if I was trapped in this type of situation with somebody that just would not stop talking, let alone smack their lips every time.
Well, even when I'm with friends or with you or with family, I'm not talking the entire time.
No, because I think it's rude.
Yeah, everybody just wants to go in their own little cocoon, and we just want to make it to our destination.
Also, if you talk, it could be fine, but like just talk to people you know. If not, just put your headphones on and shh.
Yeah. Only thing I want from my seatmate, if I don't know them, is if I fall asleep and they come around with the snacks or the soda.
Oh, to wake you up.
Just be like, they're coming. Did you want something?
Yeah.
Like that's lovely.
I was with somebody, I was in one of those ones where it was just two seats or whatever, and the girl had the window seat and I had the aisle seat. And she was sleeping. They came around, so I woke her up, just trying to be nice. Furious at me. for waking her up.
Oh, no.
The whole flight, we had 2 hours left. I was sitting next to this person that was just furious at me. Said nothing, but I could feel it.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, and I was like, well, okay, you ordered something, so I think I did the right thing.
You were parched, you wench. Here's the thing that I believe in on planes with seat partners. Help me pass the garbage. You know what I mean?
Okay.
People put their arm right in front of your face. I'm like, I will take it from you and take the garbage and put it in the bag.
Especially because everybody has their arms like kind of pinned to their side.
Yeah.
And as soon as you open it up, it's just like 3 hours of just like sweat and built up anxiety coming out at you. Not great.
No. So take the garbage. Help your neighbor.
Yeah. So then there's a flash of light.
Dun, dun, dun.
And severe turbulence is felt. The plane is fine, but apparently they have accelerated so much that they broke the sound barrier.
Oh.
The radio guy can't reach Gander, which is a place, now we know.
Ganda.
Boston, Rocky and Bullwinkle, all of that stuff. And at risk of a potential collision with other aircrafts, Captain Skipper Farver, he has like 5 names in this episode, finally decide to descend below the clouds because they have no way of knowing if there's another aircraft coming towards them.
Right. And so he just says to the other 4 guys in the cockpit, like, keep your eyes out because we're going to be going down and we could potentially crash into another plane.
Yeah, let me just have my freaking X-ray vision through clouds, Captain Skipper.
This is what they train for.
Yeah, okay. You can't train your eyes to see through clouds. Captain Farter tells the passengers they hit some atmospheric phenomenon. That's it. That's all he tells them. He gives no explanation of what that is. I would literally be freaking out.
Just confusing enough.
What does atmospheric phenomenon mean?
A gander.
Yeah, turbulence, I guess. The crew is able to identify the coastline of Manhattan Island and other geographic landmarks, but there's no buildings in New York City. Only dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
Claymation dinosaurs, to be exact.
Just a very chill brontosaurus munching on some leaves, and he's just like, huh?
Yeah, I when I first saw this, I was like, did they go back in time or to a different universe with claymation dinosaurs?
Right. So that's a good
Why?
question. Were they real dinosaurs or actual claymation dinosaurs?
Was it actually clay?
They're actually in a cartoon. They didn't realize it.
It's some interesting facts about this shot. A lot of the scene, especially the airplane episodes, they use a lot of stock footage and they use a lot of things that, like of the airplane flying because they didn't actually make an airplane go fly.
Yeah.
So, but the Brontosaurus model and miniature jungle was from the set of the 1960 films, Dinosaurs! Exclamation point.
I love an exclamation point.
So they were used for this stop motion scene, this one
Fantastic.
scene. Do you want to know how much it cost to have this?
I do.
In the 60s, remind you, this is quite a bit of money. Also, quite a bit of money now, over $3,000 to have that
For the stock?
for 2 seconds
Yeah.
of a claymation dinosaur eating leaves.
That would probably be a lot of money.
That's a
Like
lot.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the whole history of the Twilight Zone is really interesting if you ever get a chance to look at it or research it. But the more the show went on, the more expensive it was for every episode.
Right.
And it was verging on like $65,000 an episode because they were also getting big names on there.
Sure.
The stories were getting more elaborate. So to add this extra expense of a claymation dinosaur of $3,000, it was a big deal.
In the second season.
In the second season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big deal. So anyway, that's my little shtick on this thing. It is ridiculous. But I mean, you kind of had to have like
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, you need to see something, right? Because other than that, it's just like them going, there's a dinosaur, and us not seeing anything.
Right. Exactly.
And you figure in the 60s, maybe that was real effective.
Right. Yeah. So the captain says somehow, some way, we've gone back in time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Their only hope to returning to the present is to increase altitude and speed in an attempt to catch the same freak jet stream and to return to 1961. Keep that year in mind, guys. It's not a bad plan, honestly.
What else do you have to do?
Right. Being in that jet stream and going back in time has kind of depleted some of their fuel at this point. So they're like, okay, we have enough to try to attempt to do this again. I don't know how it works, but let's just do the same thing we were doing and get into it again. At first, it appears to work. Another flash of light, violent shaking. New York City is once again visible. Jenny tells them to talk to the passengers because she's had it. People are climbing up the walls. People want too many paper cups of drinks. She's not going to her opera. Everybody's
We're out of
done.
cones.
Yeah, it's
We're
mayhem.
out of water cones.
Mayhem in the cabin. Although they still cannot contact Idlewild, they are able to reach LaGuardia. The captain calls it a momentary difficulty when he tells the passengers what happened. Again, not specific.
Vague. Very vague.
Sorry, guys, we had a momentary difficulty and we'll be landing soon.
Yeah.
I saw a claymation dinosaur, guys. What do you mean momentary?
Keep it vague. Keep it vague.
So, as the radio guy's trying to reach these airports and figure out if they can land, the air traffic controller on the radio does not understand the references to Idlewild or to the current aircraft technology known as, such as like VOR, ILS, and jet aircraft. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. What does that even mean? So then I was like, oh, okay, what's happening? Like, are they in another universe now?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's happening?
They're on another planet.
But to be fair, in 2022, I still don't know what any of those mean. So his guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
The controller eventually clears the aircraft to land at LaGuardia, but orders the captain to report to the Civil Aeronautics Administration, or CAA, CA.
Caca.
He said, report to the CA office afterwards. The captain remarks that they haven't been called the Federal Aviation Administration by that name in years. So a little bit more of the mystery is thickening. The co-pilot spots the building and structures from New York City State Fair in 1939 to 1940 below. They have come forward in time. Just not enough.
Just not enough.
The captain briefly considers using the 1939 LaGuardia to refuel before making another attempt to return to 1961, but he rejects that plan because LaGuardia's runway is too short to handle the Boeing 707.
I think that was a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that pilots know what they're doing, doing on planes for this reason. That's why there's 5 people in this cockpit.
I mean, I was very impressed by them flying in the air and looking out the window and going, "Oh, that's Manhattan."
Oh, yeah, I would assume that you would have to know.
You have to have like
masses.
a topographical map in your brain and be able to look down to see where you are.
I can't even say that word, so I'm not going to.
I barely got through it.
I do like that he's like, it's too short and all this plane science stuff, but he got it. As he attempts one more ascent before the fuel runs out, he addresses the passengers, indicating that they have traveled back in time. All I ask of you is that you remain calm. He tells over the intercom, and pray. He ends it with that. Love that they didn't tell them anything this entire time until they're like, we're about to run out of fuel. We're going to try this one more time. Hey guys, by the way, we traveled back in time. We're going to try it again because we went forward, but not forward enough. We don't know what we're doing.
I mean, what else do you say? What else do you say?
Yeah. So that's the big twist about this one. And I love the episodes that have those kind of double twisty things where it's like, oh, they went back in time. It's like, oh, they came back. Not far enough.
Yes.
Now what?
And
What
there's
happens?
even a cliffhanger.
Yeah. So this is the end narration will kind of give you what may or may not have happened to Flight 33. A Globejet airliner en route from London to New York on an uneventful afternoon in the year 1961, but now reported overdue and missing, and by now searched for on land, sea, and air by anguished human beings, fearful of what they'll find. But you and I know where she is. You and I know what happened, do we? So if some moment, any moment, you hear the sound of jet engines flying atop the overcast, engines that sound searching and lost, engines that sound desperate, shoot up a flare or do something, that would be Global 33 trying to get home from the Twilight Zone. Oh,
You know, it almost feels like there's
never found.
There's, you know, even, you know, beyond the going back millions of years or whatever, right? There's also this thing of like
urban legendese
and is time distorted in a way that when they're trying to find this thing and traveling through these Lulu jet streams that like it might have been a month.
Yeah, maybe.
For,
for
1961. And so they're searching and searching and searching, but they can't find them. And for them, they just keep hopping around. I mean, at some point, they're going to run out of fuel and they just got to pick a decade.
Yeah, and then land and then be like, here we go. We're with claymation dinosaurs now.
Hopefully they go a little bit further.
That'd be funny if they just like overshot a lot and it's like year 4000 something.
Exactly.
Good luck.
And then the plane is rusted and it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I mean, this episode. So that's the thing. about like one of these episodes, not much really happens during the episode. It's more the ride you're on,
Yes.
and the story. Because after it was done, like as I was watching this for the first time, I was just like, "Oh my god, what? Anything gonna happen? Come on!" And then by the time it ended, I was like, "That was a pretty good story." Okay,
Yeah. I feel like when I watch the Twilight Zone, I am always there for the ride.
Yeah.
You know, in this episode, I'm a passenger on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what's going on. I'm trying to figure it out. And I think that if you're willing to go with that, then you're going to be entertained.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're sitting there going like, oh, this is so boring. Oh, nothing is happening. Oh, that makes no sense. Then you're stopping yourself from enjoying it.
Yeah, and then you get episodes like Jezebel where the entire thing could have been summed up in a sentence, and I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah, well, and she was just annoying. It was just
Yeah,
bad,
the whole
so-
story was annoying.
It was bad. It was just bad. I think I might have fallen asleep on Jezebel.
We did.
We did. We had this New Year's. We fell asleep at 10 o'clock, and I set an alarm for 11:30, and we woke up with champagne, and then said Happy New Year and went back to bed.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say we didn't wake up, and I was like, but I remember we
No,
did.
I set an alarm. I set an
Yeah,
alarm.
Yeah.
Well, it was Earth all along. Special segment.
No, so smooth. So
You were
smooth.
just staring at me. I was like, what? Is he going to give me the lead in?
I just talked for a whole 10 minutes, so I'm done.
All right, so
I want
let
some
us get
chicken
into our
nuggets.
special segment. It was Earth all along. So while Gremlins on the Wing of the Plane usually only take place in the Twilight Zone, time, like in the Odyssey of Flight 33, is always a factor. We all rush to the airport to then sit there and wait, and nothing feels like more of a time suck than when your flight is delayed.
Uh-huh.
So I want to share some delayed stories.
Oh, no.
With you.
Okay.
In
My
20
worst fear in an airport.
Ugh. In 2014, the vice president of Korea Air went nuts when her nuts were served to her unsatisfactorily.
What?
Yeah, she didn't like that she was just given a packet of nuts. She wanted them served nicely.
Oh, get out.
So she fired the crew chief
Whoa.
and then made them go back to the airport to kick him off the plane.
Wait, where was she?
They were leaving JFK.
So this happened in the air.
No, they were like taxiing away, getting ready to pull,
Oh.
and they went back.
So they didn't even take off. Well, how'd she get peanuts so early?
She's the president.
Of
course.
airplanes.
But she was later sentenced to a year in prison for her delay causing insanity.
Oh, because it was like unjust.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And also,
I was
like,
wait, what else?
She
did
was
do?
like, so she was like the vice president of Korea Air, and her father was the CEO. So it was like just like very shameful.
she was just also
yeah.
probably just
and a brat.
entitled.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Another flight in 2012 from San Francisco to Shanghai had to land in Alaska because of some faulty toilets. A new plane was sent, but that one was also no good. So United Flight 857 was delayed 2 whole days waiting for a plane that wasn't crappy.
In Alaska, of all places, I'm pretty sure those people did not pack for Alaska.
Oh, absolutely not.
They're
San
like, I'm
Francisco to
going-
Shanghai?
I'm going to Shanghai in the summer.
Where are we?
Wait, okay, but in that story, did it say anything about how she wanted the peanuts served?
I think it was
One
like
by
she was
one?
just given a bag and she wanted them like served nicely in a bowl or
Girl,
something.
it comes with like 8 peanuts in the bag.
She fancy.
Oh.
She fancy.
Sorry, that's just going to bother me.
By the way, I believe I read that she only served 3 months of the year sentence.
Yeah, she probably got bail or something. Yeah.
She was Paris Hilton. She's Paris Hilton of Korea Air.
Of aeroplanes.
Yes.
Ugh.
But the longest delay in history
No.
was 160 hours.
How many days?
It's a week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, is that how many hours are in a week?
Just about. It's like 6.7
Oh, okay,
days.
okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly didn't know.
The Pan Am Pacific Clipper was delayed by a week on December 7th, 1941, which was Pearl Harbor. They were stuck at the U.S. Embassy in New Zealand and actually had to fly westward, making them not only the longest delay, but the first commercial flight to circumnavigate the world.
Whoa.
Because
Okay.
they had to go all the way around back to,
Oh.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Instead of just going east from New Zealand to
They
like,
made
Hawaii.
it around the world in one day.
Yeah, crazy. And a week.
In a
'cause they had a
week,
week. So delayed flights may feel like you are stuck in another dimension, but
Nah.
these trip detours were on Earth all along.
Yeah. Yikes.
Imagine
I freaked out when my flight was delayed by like 4 hours once.
Imagine though those people in Alaska, they're like, oh, the plane is here. Finally, we can all get on the plane. And then they're like, no, this one's bad too.
Why? Okay, how long is the flight from Alaska to Shanghai? Because, I mean, do they need to have the toilets work? Like, sorry guys, just don't shit.
Crap in a bag.
Right.
Well, you figure it's got to be at least 10 hours or something like that.
I guess that is a lot. Maybe they have some law where it's like if it's over, you have to have a bathroom accessible.
I think they just have to have bathrooms no matter what.
But that's so weird that they probably in a big plane like that, there's usually maybe 2 to 4 restrooms and that none of them were working.
But I don't know that if it was necessarily like a mechanical problem with the toilets, or maybe it was something about the storage. You know what I mean? Of the water and stuff that was leaking or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the pooper pooped out the plane.
More peas.
He's pooped.
Plosive, please.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, cool. Planes suck. And
very scary.
I don't know why we
Gremlins,
do them.
dinosaurs.
Also, I don't want to drive a lot. So
pooping.
Whatever. You gotta live.
Complicated.
Life is hard.
I mean, they're really frightful flights.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. I was on a plane once. Sorry, I'm chewing time here.
Roadblock. Right? Detour.
Yeah. Ooh, Amazing Race. Mm-hmm. I was on a plane once where the toilet did back up. So that was not fun because the entire plane literally smelled like shit. But
that's disgusting.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I was on a plane once where they were not expecting as many people to bring carry-on luggage. And so they were just throwing the bags in the toilets, in the lavatories. Because they ran out of storage, and I guess this particular airline did not have a plan of like checking it at the gate.
Was it Spirit?
No, I think it was when I was flying maybe from San Andres, which is an island off the South America, back to like Colombia or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, all right, we'll just throw all of these bags in the bathroom.
Okay, well, you can't piss or shit, so have fun.
And everybody was panicked. It was terrible.
Oh. Okay, well, you made it, and so did your luggage.
Oh, I meant the crew was panicked because they didn't know what to do with the bag, so they were just like throwing it in there.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you have any fun stories, feel free to comment below, and
see you next week
time
in the Twilight Zone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to A Bite Of, artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod, and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye!